Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LFC Roundtable Podcast. This is the podcast where we break down everything from the feeds. I am your host, Taryn Armstrong, and with me today is the colorfully captivating Brent Welgemont. Brent, how you doing?
Yay! More alliteration. Anyway, I don't know if you guys noticed at the beginning, but I was trying to fix the angle of my table, and I started to move it over to the left, and then I noticed that there was something on the table that I don't really want anybody to see, so I went, oh, we need to go to the right. We need to go to the right. Right, Brent, right.
Yeah, the blocking is always important for these podcasts. Right. Also with me today is the delicately dainty Alex Kidwell.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you? Oh, man.
I told you.
Time to hang up on this hangout so I can do push-ups and lift weights and disassociate myself from what you just said about me.
Yeah, you brought this into the world, Alex, last week when you called yourself dainty.
I said, all right, whatever. I'm not going to.
Yes, unfortunately, we are without Melissa today. Hopefully, she will be back with us next week. But we are live here on this wonderful Sunday afternoon, and we will be breaking down everything from the feeds, talking about it, arguing about it. It's going to be great. We have the chat room open on robhasawebsite.com. You can send in questions to me on Twitter at ArmstrongTaryn if you want them answered on the show. So let's get into this. Who won the HOH, Brent?
Kevin Martin. That Kevin Martin won HOH. He was
Yes.
he was down to the final two between him and Dre, apparently. And Dre started, I think it was Dre started to make a deal with Kevin, or basically she wanted to assure that her and William were not targets. And there was no deal actually made from what I understand. Although Kevin did say, I won't put you up. But then right after that, she mysteriously got weak and dropped her weights. And of course, Ika noticed that. But Kevin is the new HOH, and he had a decision to make.
Yes, and we saw from Dre last week a lot about how she wants to go after Ika and Dimitri, but she doesn't want to be the one to do it. So not surprising to me at all that she thought, well, Kevin, perfect. I'll give Kevin the HOH. Let him do my dirty work. And so, yes, as Brent mentioned, Kevin has a decision to make here. What is the decision that he has to make, Alex?
Well, I mean, it's, kind of the same thing that Demetrius and Ika were dealing with last week with Kevin and Bruno. It's the exact same pitch, because there it is. If you put us up and one of us goes, then you're in trouble. Kevin, you're next. And it's basically what Kevin and Bruno were saying to Ika and Demetrius about putting them up last week. And that therein lies the rub, basically, right? Because it was a sound pitch last week. It's a sound pitch this week, but it's very hard to get over the fact that they didn't go with it last week. They evicted Kevin's best friend. So yeah, it comes down to, is Kevin going to put up the showmance knowing that with them, minimized, if one of them goes, that he's probably the biggest target left, no matter who stays, versus is he going to try to work with two people who just burned him?
Yeah, but let me just say this. You know what? Kevin is supposed to be a bigger man than that. I know it's hard after Bruno was evicted last week, but he's supposed to be the gamer. He's supposed to be the strategist. He's supposed to be the guy who understands position. He's the guy who you guys have been falling all over for since you saw him on Big Brother Canada 3. And where was he? Okay? Where was he? Because all I saw was somebody who was a little bit butthurt. All right. I saw somebody who was butthurt and just wanted to make sure, again, like we saw last week, that he didn't want to be had. He didn't want to be had by Dimitri and Ika. So he got nervous because he was saying to himself all that night. In fact, I went to bed sound. Okay. I went to bed sound because that night when he went HOH, he was like, I cannot put up Ika and Demetrius. If I do that, it's just continuing what these five people in the middle want me to do. They're all really fat and happy right now. I shouldn't do the house's work for them. That would be terrible. And all of a sudden when he woke up, it was like the good Kevin had left and had been replaced by a complete idiot because he decided to throw his lot in with Dylan and Karen. Karen! That effing Kevin Martin, that little puke, the guy who she's been in a war with for 45 days, all of a sudden in one day with an HOH competition under his belt, all of a sudden she's like, yeah, Kevin, we'll go to the final three together. Yeah, and he totally bought it.
Well, I think the question then is, right, that in order for Kevin to make this move, to not put Ika and Dimitri on the block, he has to trust them to not go after him the following week, especially somebody like Dimitri, who is very good at competitions, very likely to win the next competition. He needs to know that if I keep you safe, you're not going to come right back at me, because then I might as well just take you out since you're so good at competitions and you're my biggest threat to win the game. If everybody's coming after me anyway, I might as well take these people out. I think that's what Kevin was thinking. And is he wrong? Because Ika and Dimitri were talking about, even if he does keep us safe, we probably will backdoor him next week or go after him next week.
Okay, this is what I quibble with the first part of your question, because I don't feel like Kevin has to know that they will keep him safe. All he needs to know is they're a bigger target than me. Okay, you're going with the supposition that, well, I have to believe Ika and Demetrius in order for me to keep them in the house. I totally reject that, because there is a possibility that someone other than Ika and Dimitri could win HOH next week. And if that happens, who are those people going after? They're going to go after Ika and Dimitri first, rather than Kevin, who is, you could say he's by himself, maybe with William, but William's kind of with Dre. And Kevin's been doing his best to distance himself from Williams. So I don't feel like he needs that assurance at all. He just needs to understand that his position is better in the game with a target as massive as Jamaica in front of him than it is when one of them has been evicted.
But however, the thing to think about then is also the triple eviction looming,
but he doesn't know that,
which he doesn't know about. Certainly at this point, with the triple eviction looming, even if both of Jamaica were still left in the game, he's probably going to go in that triple anyway. And
I reject that as well. You're being really glossy with the details here, because, and I'm not throwing shade at you, but if three people are up on the block, let's say like Kevin, Ika, and Demetrius are all nominated, William has a vote to save. It only takes one more. And there's only three people voting, I think, in that instance. So it could end up being like a three-way tie if something weird happens. So, I mean, there's a good possibility that he could stay, especially with the possibility of Dylan's vote as well, because Dylan is not going to vote for Demetrius to say. And I think he would pick Kevin over Ika.
Alex, do you agree with that?
No, I reject that notion. I think Dylan thinks that he can get rid of Kevin and Ika in that spot, and he can chum up with Demetrius at this point. There's been a softening of Dylan's feelings towards Demetrius lately. He held a grudge for weeks, but I guess it could only last so long. Well, it just comes to a point where he thinks, we get rid of Ika, we get rid of Kevin. Maybe Demetrius is, they're fixated on this newbies idea now. I think a lot of them. And it's a tough spot to be in. It's hard to say what the right move is for Kevin here. Really, I guess, if you had all the
not
knowledge
hard for me,
if you have all the knowledge, the right move is not to win this HOH, I guess, and to win next week. But to me, I think I agree with Brent ultimately that that's probably what you do, simply because I think everyone's coming after Kevin. So it doesn't really matter too much. I think what it comes down to is like who's worse for your game. And I think like Karen is actively destroying your game just by like the things she says around the house. Jackie has gone out of her way to blow up your game multiple times. I think like there's a way you can work with Ika and Demetrius. There's a path there. I think you're kidding yourself if you think there's really a path to working with Karen. That's kind of what I come down to.
I agree with that as well. I don't know how he's been snowed in a day. By the way, I have throw major shade at Bruno, because Bruno in the house, I feel like, did more to destroy Kevin's game than he did to help it by sweet talking Dylan and Karen and saying, Kevin, they're all nice with you now. As I said on my Periscope, like Bruno was trying to smooth the way for Kevin if they won HOH. I don't think he necessarily wanted Kevin to work with those people long term. I don't feel like there's any way that he feels like that Karen would be loyal to Kevin long term. It's laughable to me. I couldn't understand where they were coming from on that. Ultimately, I feel like that this is just a boneheaded move. I really don't feel like it's that unclear. And I feel like, again, I come back to the thing that I felt good when Kevin won HOH, because I'm like, okay, and Dimitri even said it on the feeds. He's like, if anybody can see the forest for the trees here, it's Kevin, because he's a gamer, he understands strategy, he understands position. And what did he do? He totally ignored all of that. And like I said, I haven't even heard him basically give the rebuttal to what he was saying on Thursday night when he won HOH. On Thursday night, he was making total sense. And then all of a sudden he was like, he forgot about it. I mean, maybe something happened there where if the feeds were off or something, maybe he was thinking about something when he was asleep, but it just seemed like it was like another person who came in and possessed him for about 6 hours.
Well, yeah. I think William really wants Ika out. William's one of the only people that like has his ear to a degree right now. Dre is encouraging him in that direction, and that's those are like he tried to make kind of a 5 with them and Demetrius and Ika, and he felt like, that wasn't working. Like they were throwing each other under the bus. Demetrius and Ika kept throwing his name out there to people, especially last week. So it's really hard to come back and regain this trust. They evicted Bruno. They did all this. I don't think this is like an emotional decision from Kevin. I just think that ultimately he feels like they're not going to honor their deal, and Demetrius is like a serious danger to win HOH. Ike is a serious manipulative threat in the house. I don't know that it's the right or wrong decision necessarily. It's really hard for me to gauge this one, I think, but it is interesting. It's going to be interesting to see moving forward, because really what I think is just, this triple, man, you guys talked about it on Thursday. I wasn't on the show, but God, man, I'm so mad. I hate this triple so much. They want to say like, yeah, like Brent was talking about, we want to be nice to Big Brother Canada and not like just burn them. But dude, like there's none of your regular fans like this. Like go on Reddit for 2 seconds and just look at what's being said, and then tell me that you actually pay attention to what the fans think about this.
Oh,
Kevin
but
Kevin has to win POV next week. That's all it is. Kevin has to win POV.
Contraire, Arissa Cox says on Twitter that good players will be able to anticipate twists coming up in the future.
I know, and I'm sure that's the corporate line, and I'm sure she has to say that whether she believes that or not, but that's factually incorrect. We know that. Willow was set up better than anyone in the house, and she goes, because of some ridiculous nonsense, a twist that really just, enabled stupidity across the board. Like you can say that a stupid move was made to get her out, but a stupid twist enabled that stupidity to have so much power in the first place that it could end her game in a moment.
Yeah, when we talk about who the best players in Big Brother history are, we talk about Dr. Will, we talk about Dan Giesling. I don't think any of us here
and we talk about Canada's HOH.
Yeah, I don't think any of us here can say that even Dr. Will or Dan Giesling could somehow like be completely invulnerable to a triple eviction. I don't think it's possible to be completely invulnerable to that kind of thing. When there's 3 people up on the block and only one of them survives, it's so random, and it's so built toward getting out players that are built in really who are in a really good position, that it's just like, what are you going to do? There's really nothing that you can do to ensure your safety. Anybody can leave in a triple eviction, no matter who you are, no matter what position you have. It really just comes down to the luck of the draw there.
And it's not just Kevin. I think if the triple takes out Dre, who's playing a really good, I'm not like, I wasn't the biggest fan of Dre. I haven't professed my love of Dre on these episodes. I haven't talked about her that much, but it would be really unfortunate. She's playing a strong game right now, and to see a twist take out someone who's played themselves into a strong position socially, I think is a shame, no matter who it is.
I have a question for both of you. So 2 people have tweeted this to me, so I'm thinking it probably did have to happen on the feeds, or it somehow has made its way and become truth. Did Kevin in any way intimate the fact that by not nominating Ika and Demetrius, that it would be seen as a weak move by the fans, that he like to go after, like, let's say he threw up Karen and Dylan as nominee, or Karen and Jackie as the nominees, that would be not a good TV move? And if that is true, what is your opinion of that?
I disagree, because I think the fans would love for you to get rid of the people that aren't good TV necessarily. Like the fans, I think they would be fine with Kevin targeting Jackie. And I think targeting Karen it makes for good TV too, just because of the nature of like the one-sided rivalry she's created.
Yeah, he did basically imply that Ika and Dimitri, nominating them is the sexy move. It's the big move.
Oh, for God's sake.
And doing something else would be the weak move that nobody would enjoy watching.
Listening to Cindy. What's wrong with you?
God, he's such a moron. Oh, my God.
Hey, you guys were giving me... You were throwing some shade on me on Thursday night, I know, for making him my best ranked Big Brother Canada player a year ago. But I will just point out, it looks like he's going to be the last standing vet. So results-oriented win for Alex. Screw you guys.
Yeah,
Where's your number 1 pick?
I would be
Where's
laughing
your number
more.
1 pick? Jury House. That's right. I'm sorry. I love you, Netta.
I would be laughing more with you if this season wasn't such a total shit show, as I've been calling it on the Twitter. Like, I just called it the Twitter, like my dad. Yeah, I know, right? It's so depressing watching this. And I tweeted earlier that if it wasn't my job, I really would stop watching. I'm moderately hopeful, and I don't want to get my hopes up, but I'm moderately hopeful by the events of today. And I feel like maybe there's a way for this not to end up with like a Dylan Jackie final 2, but we're going to talk about it.
Yes, so let's get to
Jackie is such a great goat at this point. Tara, do you still think she can win?
Kevin's yes, like, Karen, please illuminate us to how Jackie's
like disgusted by the fact that Jackie is like making him French toast in the morning. She is such a suck up. Like she's so overt with her like
I remember everybody telling me in Big Brother 18, there's no possible way that Nicole can win because everybody hates her. Nobody respects her. You cannot underestimate these kinds of players. You know, Netta, who is the foreperson of the jury right now, was a big Jackie fan. So just be careful about saying Jackie has no chance to win. That's all I'm saying.
You really think Netta's gonna go with that though? Like that's not
if it's Jackie Dylan, Jackie Karen, you really think that there's no chance
there's no good luck. You're right.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, just be careful.
Netta will abstain.
We all thought the Pax Bros had no chance of winning either. So all right, so we should get to the nominations. Right before nominations, the feeds went crazy because what happened was Kevin told Ika and Dimitri, I'm going to put you up. The two of you are going up. I'm sorry. And they said, man, I get it. We understand. You know, you're in the same position we were. We understand. They got pissed though. They went around. They were angry with people. And then Ika, I should specify. And then it was
right now, Jackie.
We'll get into
you have no. You do not want any of this.
Then it was announced that nominations were going to take place in an hour's time, and Kevin started talking to himself, going back and forth. Oh my God, am I making the wrong decision? Should I be nominating Ika and Dimitri? And it really seemed like he was coming around. He was saying, I can't do it. I need to change up my plans. He went and he talked to Ika and Dimitri. What happened? Because this was insane to me. What happened in this conversation, Alex?
Wait, which conversation are we talking about? The one
right before nominations.
Right before noms.
Yeah, right before the feeds cut. Basically what happens is Kevin goes to Ika and Dimitri and he's like, guys, I think maybe I shouldn't put you guys up. And Ika is not hearing what Kevin's saying. She's instead coming to Kevin with a pitch of, look, I know that I'm going to be going. I totally understand. Just make sure you work with Dimitri when I leave, which is like the complete opposite of what she should be saying.
Yeah, right.
Because it pitches exactly the scenario, which makes it a good move to put up Ika and Dimitri, which is, okay, he puts up Ika and Dimitri, Ika goes home, he's got Dimitri, the best competition player on his side, and he's still got Will. He gains a little bit of trust with Dylan and Karen, who still want Dimitri out ahead of him. Like, this is actually looking pretty decent for Kevin, according to what's being presented to him by Ika, and he is legitimately ready to flip and not put them on the block. What is with this, Brent?
It's because she suddenly became, for a little bit, non-self-interested. And that is the problem that happens in Big Brother. When you're not self-interested, you make stupid moves. If she was self-interested, I feel like she would hear Kevin here. She would get the fact, oh my God, this is my chance to stay off the block. This is my chance to save myself. This is my chance to not go home. And instead, she's all worried about, I don't want to I feel bad because I don't want to take Demetrius down with me. So, make sure you work with him when I'm gone. It's like she's already dead. She's written out the will. She wants this is how she wants the things to proceed. And if she just stopped herself for a moment, it could have turned out so much different. But instead, like you said, she basically gave Kevin exactly what he needed to hear to go through with his plans instead of halting his plans.
Yeah, and I mean, you can say that like their game is stupid. A lot of these newbies, when they're just like, obviously sucking up to the HOH, but at least they're sucking up to the HOH. Like they're not moping, you know what I mean? And that was like his problem. Like she moped. Body language and where you are and kind of what you're doing when power transitions, people read into that a lot. I mean, the fact that Ika seemed bummed by Kevin winning, I think that really speaks to, Kevin sees that and reads that and thinks they're not going to be good on this 1 week truce that they've offered each other. That is really like, he needs to know that that's good if he's going to keep them. Otherwise, like you said, there's no reason to do it. Demetrius is way too good at these comps, won the veto. He's all over the place. And so, yeah, I mean, when you compare him to like the Karen who isn't winning anything, or the Dylan who like can't fit in half of these competitions. He's so big, like he's just so awkward and gangly. He's not made for these competitions. I mean, you can easily see why that would come about. And again, like Kevin was all over the place that night. So if Ika had been reading the signs, I mean, Kevin was playing a ridiculous game of telephone between Demetrius and Jackie, just running back and forth about like, did Jackie say the thing? Or like, I can't even remember what it was. It was just about whether or not, if is Demetrius your target? And Kevin didn't name a target.
Right.
But like, I mean, just so much back and forth on that one little issue. I mean, Kevin was like doing all the work. And if you see him doing that much work, you have to think that it's not a foregone conclusion you're done. So get in there, do something.
Yeah, it cannot be undersold how close Kevin was to flipping. This is one of the craziest pre-nomination like set of feeds I think I've seen in a long time. Probably since was it Austin? Was it whether or not he was going to put up Vanessa or Steve? And Vanessa like got him at the last second. Like this was really close. Kevin was like, guys, please to production, guys, give me 5 more minutes. I need to think this out. And he was saying, I can't do it. I can't nominate Ika and Dimitri. I can't do it. And then he was so close. And then he ultimately goes to Ika and Demetrius and says, guys, I'm sorry, I have to nominate you. And they were like, it's fine. It's fine. We're good.
Yeah, that was the other thing. They didn't push back far enough. It really got on me that they were just like they were fine because they had done this to Kevin and Bruno last week, but that doesn't mean you just have to give in. I mean, it's literally like a pox on both their houses at this point. I hate Kevin's boneheaded, moronic move to nominate Ika and Demetrius, and I'm hating on Ika right now for not getting her head out of her ass and get her head in the game and start to try to save herself. Now, she may ultimately be bailed out here by a veto win by her partner, otherwise known as Superman, but it could have been a lot easier for them.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to also that they still don't buy Bruno's pitch. Like they came so close so many times last week, but after what happened after Kevin won, they were like, did we make a mistake? Should we have kept Bruno? And they were like, no, we didn't make a mistake. It was the right choice. And so I think they feel like Kevin's making the right choice right now. And I think, again, that still stems from this idea that even though Ika is pissed at Dre for dropping out of that HOH competition, she thinks she's shady. She's not turning up. She's not helping them, but she still doesn't see the extent to which Dre has just been stabbing her in the back over and over and over throughout the course of the last 2 weeks. And I mean, what are you going to do?
I also feel like that's because Dre is internally conflicted about this as well. I mean, so many times in the feeds, Dre seems to revert for a moment to the person she was walking into the Big Brother house, which is the person that would rather lose the game and be loved by Canada. I think there's at times where she really gets in her own head about the things that she's doing in the house and the lies she's telling and the player that she's become. But then she's like, oh, yeah, I'm totally fine. But there are times, though, where she does feel bad. And I feel like if you can get her in one of those times where she's starting to feel a little bit guilty, I mean, I know we're jumping ahead here, but I feel like the best time to talk with Dre would be a couple hours before eviction and just really pull on some heartstrings there. What kind of player do you want to be? I've never betrayed you, that sort of thing. And I feel like you can make some headway because she's not a total gamer. There's some part there.
It's funny because it's almost as though she learned the game from Ika. And what worked for Ika in the first half of the game was that she was going back and forth and she was believing it every time she flipped and flopped. And it's kind of the same thing with Dre. And now it's being used against Ika, which I don't know. That seems like some poetic irony to me.
It does, yeah. And to your point about the deal between Kevin and Bruno and Ika and Demetrius, I mean, yeah, it was very easy, I think, for Bruno to sell that because Bruno genuinely believed that. I mean, you listen to his exit press, and Bruno absolutely would have maintained that. He feels like that was his only path to, as such a huge target, that was his only path. He really saw that, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Ika and Demetrius, like you said, I don't think they really believe that. So, I mean, really only the best, Big Brother players, manipulators, liars can really sell a plan or an idea of that magnitude that they don't believe at all. And that's the problem. It's it's very hard for them to sell something because they're not, like you said, I mean, they don't buy it. So they don't think it's right for Kevin. And so, as a result, you find yourself in a situation where Demetrius is, basically almost in a position where, it seems like Ika has a foot out the door. I mean, there's still so much of the week to be played, but they really are almost resigned to the situation. And it doesn't make a lot of sense because there's a lot of, I mean, there are votes to be flipped here, but again, they really, really had a play here with Kevin. I mean, especially with Kevin, but just couldn't come together because, yeah, like you said, they didn't push for it.
Yes, but there is a chance, as Brent has mentioned, Dimitri won this veto. And we also found out that Kevin threw this veto and probably could have won if he wanted to. Kevin had been studying for this competition. I believe this was the car competition for a very long time. Kevin had the answers down, and Dimitri basically hasn't been studying at all for the most part.
Apparently, like, gave up in frustration at one point, thinking he had lost, and then finished anyway and won. So that should be interesting. In the episode.
So it seems as though if Kevin wanted to win this one, he could have, but he decided to throw it. He wanted to allow potentially Dimitri to win this, to put a bigger target on his back. Kevin just didn't want the stigma of winning 2 competitions back to back. He doesn't want the target on his back. He feels like whoever goes home, he doesn't need to have the veto in order to do it. How do you feel about this, Brent?
I feel like it's fine, especially if he doesn't really care who goes home, and he seemed a bit ambivalent to who he really wanted to target. I mean, at various times, and who he wanted the house to target. The house was all over the place, and Kevin was all over the place in terms of who, do you want Ika out of the house or do you want Demetrius out of the house? Ika is a vet. Maybe you don't want to be the last vet standing. On the other hand, Demetrius is a stronger competitor and somebody who could potentially be evicted. The problem is at this point, Kevin isn't really even sure that Demetrius would be evicted before him anyway. And he also has to contend with the fact that now Demetrius is going to definitely stay in the house, unless Dre has her way and gets Demetrius to use the veto on Ika. Sorry, that's me throwing shade at them. Both Dre and William have been ridiculous trying to get that to happen. But moving on.
But Ika used your catchphrase.
I know, right? I know, right? I saw that. And people were typing it out on the feeds, and they were like, they typed it out "girl bye," but it's like "girl bye." That's how you gotta spell it with the U. Anyway, so I like the move? I guess I've never been a big advocate of HOHs winning the power of veto unless they absolutely have to. Like, if an ally will go up on the block as a default nominee. So I probably would buy this plan. I just wish he had done more. Here's the thing. I wish that Kevin had sort of split the baby in half and done what Rob and we were talking about last week, which is throw one of them up there. And because now he doesn't have options. Like, if he wants to save Ika, he doesn't have a vote this week. There's 5 people voting, so he can't even break a tie. It's in the House's hands. Even if he does put Jackie up against Ika, of course she has Dimitri's vote and maybe Dre's vote, but I just feel like he would have had more options here because he's not really happy with Jackie right now, which we alluded to, the fact that Jackie exposed the fact to Demetrius that Demetrius was Kevin's target, even though Kevin never really said that. He just sort of intimated it. And there was, like Alex said, there's a game of telephone. This is after the veto was won by Demetrius. And it was a total shit show because Jackie was doing a bad job lying. And it was, again, another one of these instances where Alex has talked about where 2 different people heard the same thing and they're relating what they said, and they're not really lying, but they both heard the same thing, but they both listened and heard different things coming out of the other person's mouth.
Yeah. Although Jackie's word has virtually no credibility at this point.
That's the problem.
Very hard.
Right.
People just assume, Jackie's talking in circles. Like, yeah, she was definitely lying. It's and that's actually, that's what I meant to talk about earlier with this idea of like who would be the shield for who, like who would go first, Demetrius or Kevin. That was also, like you talked about, Taryn, when Ika and Demetrius came to the resignation that they still made the right move last week. It was, well, we would have been the shield for Bruno and Kevin and not the other way around. That's how it would have gone. And, that's their take on it. I mean, that's still how they feel about it. But for me, it's hard to see. I mean, there was a point where it was clearly like the house against Bruno and Kevin not that long ago. It's really hard for me to see how that would have been the case. So I think if one of them ends up going, if 2 of them end up going in the triple, if Ika and Demetrius are out soon, I think, it's unfortunate. That's what had to happen. They had to, make that stand there with Bruno and Kevin to stop the bleeding. Ika just, hemorrhaging from her own side for too long, I think. And then that's, potentially going to be the story here. And I felt really bad for Kevin ultimately after this veto because he's so happy about how he threw it. He's right in the middle of the pack. It doesn't look like he threw it. He's feeling so good about it all. None of it matters. This triple is like all that really matters. Like that's, when he finds out there's a triple, he has to win POV. That's all or William win HOH. That's the only paths for Kevin now.
Yeah. So
I was going to say that I'm just going to own the fact that I didn't feel bad for him here because I'm really hating on Kevin Martin right now because from my point of view, I feel like there was a clear move to be made. He didn't take it. He made what I believe is a wrong-headed move based on information that he knew that he shouldn't be trusting. He shouldn't be believing that Karen is going to work with him, that Dylan's going to work with him long-term, that they're going to take him far, that they could even be a shield for him here. It's just crazy. He may ultimately get bailed out because Demetrius won Veto and I think is rightly perceived by the House as a bigger target than Kevin. But like you said, the triple is really going to screw up his game if there's a couple different things that happen. Demetrius could win HOH and put Kevin up on the block, and then Kevin's going to win the veto. Even if somebody else wins HOH and puts Demetrius and Kevin up on the block, then Kevin probably still has to win the veto against Demetrius. So there's all sorts of things that can go wrong. It's really going to have to take a small miracle for Kevin to make it through Thursday night.
Yes. So Dimitri has won the power of veto, and as it's been mentioned, it looks like Jackie is going to be the replacement. And Brent, as you talked about, Dre had this plan of going to Ika or going to Dimitri and trying to get him to use the veto on Ika. And something that I've been
be a gentleman.
Something that I've been keeping track of as we've been talking about this is that as we speak, Ika and Dimitri are having an argument about this very thing, where. I'm seeing Dimitri saying, I would not have let you do it. Use the POV on me. Ika says, but it would have been a discussion. And so he says, are you saying you want me to use it on you? She's like, no, I'm just saying. And then Ika's saying, maybe I should just be like Dre and play solo if I do survive.
Ika, for God's sake.
Don't go full honeycut, Demetrius. Don't you do it.
God.
And Demetrius is like, what am I doing? Why? Like, why are you saying that? And she's like, no, nothing's wrong. I think it would have been a discussion if I had won. I just think it would have been a discussion.
Full honeycut.
It would not have been a discussion. I wish we could just take this out. I wish they would take out the rule that you can use the veto on the other nominee if you're a nominee, because it just leads to insane, stupid conversations that I can't stand. This is the one time in the week where I actually liked Kevin because Dre came to him with this plan and Kevin just shut that shit down. He was like, that's stupid. Like, he's never going to do that. Like, he's going to use the veto on himself. And she kept thinking, she really overestimates her ability as a player. Girl, you aren't that good. You were a bystander for the first part of the game. Sit your ass down. It's not going to happen. Demetrius is going to use the veto on himself. Ugh.
Would you like it better if, and granted, this would make the veto much more powerful, but if he was safe and then had the option, like if people who won the veto on the block had the safety and then could save the other nominee too, like that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers moving forward. That's not necessarily like a gimme move. I think that could be interesting. Would you guys hate that? Is that too much? I mean, you still are like, if you're a good social player and you go up that way, like you still get to beat a vote, right? Like, is that, is that too overpowered for you?
I feel like it's worked well for 18 seasons. The veto is fine the way it is.
I know it's broken for Taryn.
Ask you guys. Oh, well, I mean, Taryn, do you want to answer that? Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm saying it is. I think that would be too overpowered.
Okay, all right, cool. All right.
Yeah. HOH is a bad enough thing to have as it is.
So when Demetrius won this veto, the other thing that we are not telling everyone is that he won the power. First of all, like I'm a little unclear about what he won. It sounds like he won the power. He definitely won the power to test drive this Toyota, whatever car they can win, and pick a jury member to go on a drive with him.
Yes.
So they're deciding on which jury member he should take. Maybe he's going to be Cindy, maybe Bruno. Definitely not Netta at this point. That's what they're saying. So there's that, but then it was also like he gets to pick a jury member and the possibility to make a big move in capital letters. That's what the card said. So do we think this is a double veto? Is there a chance that Ika could be safe? Am I just wishing for this to happen?
The big move is probably, feeling the G's in that Toyota 86.
All right. I just wanted somebody to you guys just got to slap me here and say, Brent, no, stop. Get out of your funk. Yeah.
You never know with Big Brother Canada.
Yeah, you never know, but I think they would be they'd be advertising it as such. I do think we probably still have at least one more twist in store for us by the end of the season. But I don't think it's a double veto.
The twist we're headed for is a Karen, Dylan, Jackie final three. That's the real twist.
I keep telling people.
That's an M. Night Shyamalan ending for you.
So speaking of Jackie, I did want to bring up this this fight that Ika had with Jackie. Basically, Ika was having a conversation with Karen where she was trying to apologize for putting Karen up on the block, and Jackie kind of interjects a bit, and Ika's not happy. Brent,
Can I take
tell
this?
us all
Yes,
about it.
I would love to take over because this is where, first of all, I can't stand you, Karen. I can't stand you, Jackie. For one instance, this is where Karen was talking about how she feels really bad and hurt because Ika and Demetrius didn't believe her. And Ika's been really mean and vicious with her lately. The same lady who has been railing Kevin Martin and swearing at him, calling him a little puke, various cuss words, just all sorts of nasty things to Kevin Martin.
The way he uses that William, it's disgusting.
But all of a sudden, she's the victim now, you guys. She doesn't want Ika to be mean and vicious to her because Karen's not like that, okay? If you guys are listening to the audio version of this right now, I'm literally rolling my eyes so far behind my head that they've come back up again, all right?
But she refuses to play the victim, though, Brent.
Oh, yes, totally, 100%.
Forget.
So then, as they're having this conversation about Ika being mean and vicious, and then Ika saying, well, I'm just keeping it real, Jackie comes into the conversation and says, well, is it okay for everybody to be mean and vicious? And of course, Ika's had enough of Jackie at this point because Jackie's floating from power to power. And I understood where Ika was coming from on this one because this was an AB conversation between her and Karen. Jackie needs to see her way out of it. And like Ika said, Jackie gets real freaking brave when other people are up on the block. I can't stand people like this. Just can't stand them. So I was totally with Ika here. On the other hand, these are people who are voting, so maybe she should have kept it a little less real than she normally does. She did ultimately apologize to Karen, by the way, I should add. But on the other hand, if she was less real, she probably wouldn't have been brought back this season. That's why we love her. So it's a double-edged sword.
But it's terrible game from Jackie too, right? Because like the few times Jackie is safe, like these are your chances where you're not a target, where you're not seen as a pariah. When you're on the block, it's very hard for you to make ground socially because people are like, oh, they're on the block. They're just trying to say whatever they can say to save their lives. Like that's just an easy assumption to make when someone's on the block. These are like some of the few opportunities Jackie has to try to like gain inroads, and she wastes them by being petty and like trying to be vindictive and like, now it's my turn to be queen. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's just ridiculous.
No,
like,
I'm totally with you.
Absurd. And and watching her try to fight with Ika, to me, it was like watching like a deer try to fight like a Bengal tiger. It's just like, man, you are so out of your depths right now.
Well, I don't know.
Like even her dig at the end, she's like, at least my hair is real. Like I couldn't even hear it. She's like, Karen, anyways. I don't know what that was. I'm sorry. I know that. But like it's funny.
Okay, so what I think I've interrupted you like 4 times, and now I can't remember what the fuck I was going to say. God damn it! I'm like, what was I going to say? Oh, I've lost it. Go ahead, Taryn. I don't know.
Okay, well, basically,
I should have written it down.
Basically, the problem I think Jackie has right now is that she needs to recognize that she has no social capital in the house. There's nothing that she can do. There's nothing that she can say to win people over. She just needs to play dead. Really?
Go away.
I remember what I was going to say.
Hide under a blanket for 2 weeks.
Wait, no, it's my turn to talk now. I remember what I was going to say. I can't remember who was on this podcast. I think it was Melissa who was saying that she feels really bad for Jackie, or maybe it wasn't one of the guests that we had who said that they feel really bad for Jackie because they don't understand why people are mean to Jackie. She seems like a nice girl. Girl, this is why. This is why people hate Jackie, because she's petty. She is a petty, basic girl, and she doesn't belong in the Big Brother house. I can't even believe they cast her, actually.
And she's not even entertaining at it like Ika is. So that's the real problem.
Yeah.
Right. I think the difference is not that she's petty; it's that she's not entertainingly petty. Because I think most people would proudly say that they are petty in that house. But like I was saying, Jackie
comes off as more the Debbie Downer.
Yeah, Jackie needs to understand she's basically in a position where she's in a great position, where all she needs to do is play positioning like Godfrey did. Godfrey understood that, he had some social capital and he was able to get people to trust him. But Jackie needs to understand that she's not even capable of that. She just needs to she needs to say the party line. She needs to say, I'm with you guys, and just not say anything else. She doesn't need to say anything. And she's
why was she talking to Demetrius before the veto competition when she said that she eventually told Kevin that she was just trying to be motivational to Demetrius, which I don't even know how that even sounds any better. That's why Kevin thought she was talking in circles, and that's why he thought she was lying, because what she did say didn't even make sense. But why is she opening up her mouth to Demetrius? I mean, she does not realize how good she could be doing in this game, the inroads that she could be making, and instead she just plays with no plan, no nothing. It's just wherever the wind takes her.
It's a really bad social game. It's like, yeah, I just was giving him words of encouragement. Like, you better win because I think you're going home if you don't. Like,
right. And
you're so bad.
I do think that in fairness, it has worked out for her in the past. It was the thing that kept her off of the block last week, but she needs to recognize that Ika and Dimitri are not HOH anymore. You shouldn't be playing to them. You should be playing to Kevin, who is HOH. That's how the floater game works. You shouldn't be floating to Ika and Dimitri at the moment. So like I said, she just needs to be a little more cautious and a little more focused on positioning, and I think she could be doing a lot better. But we could potentially see her go home this week. It's still a possibility, and I think if she does, it comes down to this mistake.
You know, it really is interesting, right? Because I mean, in some ways, she's playing like one of the most fascinating floater games you'll ever see. Because this is now, again, like this is what she was doing in the early game, where she is floating to where the sinking ship is. Like, as opposed to like finding the new raft to stay afloat on. She's diving down to Cass to like drown with her for a little while. And then she's like going over to Gary and doing the same thing. It's like, yeah, she makes a beeline for the worst spot in the house. But she's just so overlooked at this point that nobody sees any reason to target her.
She's literally the embodiment of the viewers, right? Like, she is doing exactly what the
underdog.
Viewers do. Yeah.
You're my people now.
Constantly going straight to the underdog. And it's funny that she's like the most hated person in the house because of it.
Yeah. What are numbers? Yeah, right.
So it looks like we will get Jackie versus Ika on the block. And the votes are going to be William, Dre, Dylan, Karen, and Dimitri. They need 3 votes in order to make the person go home. And what it looks like is obviously Ika has Dimitri, and Jackie will have probably the other 4 at the moment. However, Dre has talked about maybe she needs to vote for Ika in order to make sure that she doesn't come off as disloyal. Who knows? But there's definitely a lot of play here. What do you think Ika should be doing right now, Brent?
I feel like that Ika should, as far as her up against Jackie, and they have started to make this argument on the feeds, and a few of the other house guests have heard it, but I feel like they need to be even more clear about it. I feel like they need to pick their best possible 3 that they can get. Obviously, Demetrius is included in that. And argue to those people, because here's the thing, the house is really unsure who Demetrius would go after if he were to win HOH next week. Okay, they're unsure about that. All right, and when the house is unsure, they're going to be afraid to make a move with you because they like to know where people stand, or so they think they know where they stand. So I feel like that Demetrius and Ika need to be really clear with the house this week. They need to make sure they do not do what they did before nominations with Kevin and basically just give up, because there's a path here, and what they need to do is make sure that the house knows that if you save us, if you save Ika, and Dimitri needs to be, consolidated with her on this plan. If you save Ika and we stay in the house this week, and I'm likely to win HOH next week, we will remember the people that voted to save our pair this week, who voted to save Ika, and we are coming after Kevin and William. I feel like that's the argument they need to make. If you like this war that's happening between us right now, if you like that, and if you're scared, and by the way, they should remind them that there's likely a double eviction coming up soon. I know they don't know that it's coming up this Thursday, but they have to know it's coming up either this Thursday or next Thursday, because they haven't had one for a few weeks, and they still have people to get out. So they need to say, look, there's a double eviction coming up soon. You don't want to be caught with your pants down. If you keep Ika, we will continue this war. We will go after Kevin and William and put their ass on the block. You guys can stay safe in the middle and not have to worry about a thing. And we will remember the people that voted to keep us this week. I feel like that will work.
Well, I mean, you don't want to get caught with your pants down, but there's no belt that can support a triple eviction.
Again, well, I know they don't know about the triple.
I know. I'm just
okay. I know.
It seemed a prime opportunity for a metaphor.
Well, so that pitch essentially has to be made to Dre because Dre is in control of the votes here. She's talking to Dylan, and she obviously, talks to William a lot. She has her own vote. If Dre wanted to make it happen where Ika stayed, she could make that happen. But it seems like she has no interest in making that happen.
I wouldn't say that.
She doesn't want to be the one to get rid of Ika, and this is a great opportunity. She's waffled a couple times. Yeah, she definitely has waffled a bit. She does love Ika. I think there's, I remember there was a moment in the storage room where she's just questioning herself, like, what am I doing? What am I doing this week? Like, what am I going to do? And I think, the problem, Ika's biggest problem, she needs to shore up Dre for sure. But Ika and Demetrius, this has been a game where, like, these vets, like some of these bigger players have been like kind of like just big rafts. And then all these players that are still around here have just been like, trying to scramble onto the next one and hoping they're not the last one to get up there. And that's really what's happening now. Karen has distanced herself from Ika. She's ready to, she doesn't care anymore. She was loyal to them at a point. At this point, she's not loyal to anybody. Karen's just going to do Karen, I guess. And Dylan keeps pushing Dre in the direction of like, no, we got to do it now. Like, yes, are they a shield? Yes, but we don't need that shield anymore. Like, look at all the people we have on our side that are non-threatening. Like, let's just go ahead and do it. So that's the problem is Dre has people in her ear pushing her away as well that Ika and Demetrius still think to a degree are with them. And I think that's a big problem too.
I feel like that there is also a path though for them to make an argument to Dylan and Karen. Dylan and Karen, and I know that Dylan is close-ish to Dre, but I still feel like he's ultimately closer to Karen. And if there was a way to show Dylan and Karen, Karen has no loyalty to Kevin, for God's sake. She would, we know what her true feelings are on the subject. That didn't go away in a couple days.
Such good TV I know she's been that Kevin.
I know she's been better on the feeds lately, but I still feel like when push comes to shove, she's going to want him to go over other people, and she certainly will want him to go over her own self. So I feel like there's an argument to be made to Karen and Dylan along with Demetrius' vote to get to 3 for Ika to stay. Stop letting Dre be in control of the house. Of course, Ika doesn't know the true extent to Dre's treachery. On the other hand, she does know that she hasn't been totally loyal, and she should not feel like she has to play patty cake with her here.
Yeah,
is this the second or third week that Dre is the key swing vote?
Right. And that's the next question, which is there a pitch to Karen and Dylan, or maybe also Kevin and William? Is there a way to circumvent Dre and get Ika to stay? Because it does seem as though Kevin is pretty willing to push this vote onto Jackie instead. As we mentioned, he was very, very close to not putting them on the block in the first place. I think he's very open to the idea of Ika staying as long as she's not coming after him. At which point he will obviously try to talk William into it. I think he probably can talk William into it if it comes down to it. That's 2 votes with William and Dimitri. All she needs is 1 more. Kevin has had good talks with Dylan. He's had good talks with Karen, even though they've had a very rocky relationship in the past. It does seem like Bruno's work has gone a really long way into allowing Kevin to have good conversations with Karen. She seems to hate Ika and Dimitri more than she hates Kevin. It seems like she also hates Jackie more than she hates Kevin at the moment. So it seems as though there is some room to play there. However, she has to choose one route. She has to either say, I'm full on against Kevin and William, or I'm working with Kevin and William. Can we pick up 1 more vote? And that's the decision. It seems as though she hasn't gone in either direction yet. Who knows if she will even try to go in either direction, but I think those are her options right now. And I'm not entirely sure which one is the best way.
Yeah, interesting, right? Because even we have all the information. And like you just talked about, Kevin certainly amenable to working with them. William, I would say right now, wants Ika out of the house more than anyone but Jackie, I would say. So can Kevin convince him otherwise? Quite possibly. William has been very susceptible to Kevin in the past, but a lot of work would need to be done.
And there's also an option that if Dre is going to be like, okay, I'm going to be the second vote for Ika to stay because I need Ika to think I'm loyal to her. And then Kevin also is like, hey, William, why don't you put a third vote on there? We could see Dre involuntarily being the swing vote, which would be a lot of fun. Something like that has never really happened.
I was going to say, this sounds like fan fiction.
Right. Because it's very difficult to pull off. But
very difficult.
Dre is the kind of player who really, really feels like she needs to be on Ika's side, and she doesn't want to show her cards. I could really see her being like, listen, you guys need to do what you're going to do. You're going to evict Ika, but I just need to vote for Ika. I hope you understand. Ika's still going to go. Don't worry about it. And then I could see somebody like Kevin saying,
yeah,
you know what you could do here?
I have to tell you.
It's an opportunity.
Taryn, if that actually happens, I'm going to eat a bunch of Texas chili and skywrite with my gas that Taryn was right, because there's no way that that's going to happen. I mean, this, again, we talk about this every season, like, well, what if this person does this and then this person does the hinky vote and then oh my God, they could stay. Like, come on, like let's live in the real world here. I mean, it's fun to talk about. I'm not going to throw shade on that, but there's no way. Come on.
Yeah, automatic top 3 BB can moment though if it happens.
It would be
great. I would say.
Skywriting Taryn was right everywhere. So
I'm usually the first person to poo-poo these ideas. Right. I think they're usually terrible. I think this is one of the more likely scenarios of all of these completely unlikely scenarios to happen in a while. Because Dre is the way that she is, and I really could see Dre doing that. Like, I think she's willing to take that risk.
Like, I was gonna say, since you became the host of the podcast and needed stuff to talk about, you're like, oh, these things are interesting. All this stuff. You don't have to poo-poo them. Oh, yeah.
Well, and the fact that she's already vocalized it to Kevin, the fact that she thinks she might do that does, if Kevin's thinking about these things, if Kevin knows that vote is there. And I think, in a way, Kevin kind of opened the door for that. I mean, people are always afraid to throw like a vote against the majority. But last week, Kevin voted to keep Bruno, and in doing so, like, people don't really, Dre can now see that, like, oh, okay, well, someone voted to keep their friend already. It's like, you broke that suit a little bit. So it's a little less shocking or, damaging to someone's game the next time they were to do it, because people have already seen it done.
And it is beneficial to Kevin to have Dre, even if Dre does ultimately vote Ika out, that is good for Kevin, because that means that Dre is finally showing her cards, that she's voting against Ika in a position where she is potentially the swing vote, and really, really having to show Ika, I am going against you, and also showing Dimitri. And so this is something that I want to talk about. Where does Dimitri go after this vote? Because Dimitri is now safe. We're assuming that Ika is going home. With the assumption that Ika goes home, where should Dimitri go? What do you think, Alex?
I mean, it's tough, right? I mean, it depends on how this week ultimately plays out. And that's why I think, ultimately the biggest problem with Kevin's HOH here is that he's still waffling. Like, he's still not sure. Like, regardless of what decision you do make, you got to make it, man. You got to you've got to, once you make your nominations, I think you have to roll with that. The fact that he's backing off of, if you're going to throw up that showmance, I think you have to, like, now that move is made, I think it's very hard now to find ways to like undig the hole you've started to dig for the first few days of the game. So in a perfect world, if he's able to repair everything, I think Demetrius should work with Kevin, because I think they are clearly far and away the two biggest targets left in the house. I think they're the two most likely to win competitions. You could see a scenario where they like win out, the two of them, and like start a Dan and Memphis thing and are able to like take this to the end. But that feels like more fan fiction than the scenario Taryn described at this point, because they just can't seem to get on the same page long enough to trust each other. Like, these ideas that are floated out of, let's just have a 1 week truce, because we can't even seem to do that. And it's just, those aren't even working.
And they've even talked
to see Demetrius and Dylan bro down than anything, probably.
Yeah, they've even talked about the fact that how horrible will it be if one of us three doesn't win the game. Like, if Ika, Demetrius, and Kevin doesn't win the game, how horrible will it be for Big Brother Canada if freaking like Jackie or Dylan or Karen wins the game? They realize that, and yet they're still not willing to do anything about it. I agree with so much with Alex here, because I criticized Cindy for not having a plan when she won the HOH during the double eviction, but that was moving at lightning speed. Here, Kevin's had a whole day and a half to think about his nominations and an entire week to play it out. And yet, bitch still doesn't have a plan, still doesn't know what he wants to do, still waffling all over the place. I really feel like that he's not succeeded in what he wanted to do, even though he probably feels pretty good about his game, notwithstanding the triple eviction coming up. But I still feel like that there are people that would be more willing to put him up rather than other people, and he just doesn't seem to see that. I feel like totally such a wasted opportunity this week. And again, him saving Ika if that's what ultimately he wants to do, is sort of out of his hands. He needs to hope that Dre's is amenable to it, and he needs to hope that he can sweet talk William and flirt with him a little bit more, and hope that William Martin will eventually make the move that he wants him to make, but he's not even sure he wants to make the move at this point. So he can't even plan the plan. He can't even plan the moves that he needs to make to get that to happen. It's such a mess.
Yeah, I think like all the best HOHs that we see, right? What they do, what they use HOH to do is especially when they're on the bottom coming in, like they needed to win, like Kevin did. They use it to redraw the lines in the house, right? They use it to create a new alliance that's going to sustain them beyond this week. They find some way to get a majority of the remaining people in the house, or majority vote, or whatever it is they need to maintain some power, in a room together, agreeing on something, looking each other in the eye, like. I don't think he ever did enough to really try to like decide what is my majority moving forward. Let me try to craft it, even if it doesn't stick. Let me try to force it, so then I have something to reference in the future. Hey, man, we all shook in that room. You know what I mean? Like then you have a point to reference. It's just so much better. Like Vanessa did this, Derek does this. All the great players find ways to just like recraft the structure of the house. And this house is so fluid right now. And it was everyone kind of coming at Kevin. And yeah, I mean, ideally, I think he finds a way to, like me, Ika, Dimitri, William, and Dre. But, Dre isn't really amenable to that. So without all the information, it's hard. But at least I think you need to try to cement that, because then that's something you can use going forward, whether or not they betray you or not. Like you have that point to use as information.
But Kevin has also gone back and forth too, because he feels like that he's going to be targeted. He feels like he's one of the biggest fish in the house, and that's probably true at this point. So again, I don't really know how he feels like aligning with Karen and Dylan. Dylan, the guy who's still pissed at him for not using the veto on him way back when. Karen, the guy who's been calling him a little puke for 45 days. I mean, I want to shake him and go, out of everybody left in the house, these are the two people you picked? Because I don't see it, and I don't understand what he sees in it. I mean, like, are they really going to stick out their necks for Kevin Martin? No.
Well, I think he just thinks they're beatable. Is that it? I mean, they just can't win?
Well, I was going to say
that is true.
Taryn asked what the move is for Demetrius, and to me, it's clear. Honey, he needs to comp out, as Ian would say.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there is no other option. If he doesn't have an HOH or a veto around his neck come eviction night, if he's sitting on the block, he will be evicted.
He has more. Does he have more HOH and POVs together than the rest of the house combined at this point that are still around? I think it's possible.
Probably.
I mean,
he probably does.
He's been immune for the last 3 weeks. And so it could certainly be a fourth week if he wins HOH or POV next week. So he's the kind of player where as soon as he is vulnerable, you have to take him out.
And if he realizes that, then he needs to nominate Kevin Martin if he wins HOH. He cannot bro down with him, because Kevin is the one guy who could beat him in a lot of the competitions that Demetrius would be good at. Plus, Demetrius is a really smart guy. I mean, if he can get rid of Kevin who was throwing the veto, Demetrius won this competition, and he, as Alex points out, he basically quit and then had to like finish it, and then ended up winning it because the rest of the house are a bunch of yutzes.
I do want to say,
not since Karen's bathroom break and subsequent victory have we seen.
I do want to say about Kevin and his HOH run here. I think the second he won this HOH, there was basically no outcome where he wasn't going to be probably evicted in the triple eviction. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure I agree with you guys that he has done a completely bad job of this HOH run. He has gained trust with Dylan, and he has gained trust with Karen. And I do think that's important, because if Dylan wins this HOH, or God forbid if Karen wins, or even if he's on the block next to, say, Jackie and Dimitri, and he's made these inroads with Karen, maybe Karen votes to save Kevin, and along with William, maybe that's how Kevin survives this triple. And even in looking at this, if it wasn't a triple, Dimitri is the target over Kevin for all of those people, like Dimitri, or like Dylan, like Dre. I do think he's made a lot of good inroads with these people, and I think that if this wasn't a triple eviction, he'd be looking pretty good going into a double or a regular week, and then him or William could probably then start winning competitions and have a really good shot at making it toward the end. And even as it stands, I think he has increased his odds of surviving the triple by a tiny bit. I think it's still probably likely that he's going to go home, but I do think he has done some good work here. And I'm not sure that I agree that, you know, he needed to do something and then stick with it. I think that his fluidity and the relationships that he's trying to build with Karen and Dylan, I think those are good things and could possibly save him.
I love how waffling has suddenly become fluidity here. I can't disagree with that more because I feel like he's done a bad job. First of all, if he tries to campaign even a little bit for Ika to stay after his blow up with Jackie yesterday, as far as, you know, was she lying? Did she say that Demetrius was the target? She's no fan of Kevin right now, and he's the outgoing HOH. What power does he have? And she's a comp threat. The other comp threat is Demetrius, and if you evict his ally, I feel like he's going to come after you because he knows he has to comp out, and he's going to come after the one guy who can beat him in these competitions. So I feel like he's multiplied his problems here. The people that he's befriended are the people who are really unlikely to win a competition coming up. I mean, Dylan was handed his HOH, and Karen won the endurance one at the beginning of the season.
But what you have to remember is that Dimitri was coming after Kevin regardless. You know, like Dimitri was always going to be coming after Kevin.
Kevin jumped. So again, I come back to this. Somebody had to trust first. It's like a love movie. Like you have to trust first, and neither one of them have been able to do that. If Kevin had trusted Demetrius and said, "Look, okay, I'm gonna ride with you and Ika. It's us to the end. Like I'm putting my lot in with you guys, us four and William." Like the fact that he was trying to get Dre in on this, girl, bye. I mean, that's too many people. Get a foursome together and say it's this pair and this pair. We're gonna work together because we're the people who have the strongest claim to being a winner of this season, and go into that. If he would have actually had power and then didn't put up Ika and Demetrius and rode with them, I really do feel like they would have been loyal to him in the triple. I know I've gotten pushback on that on Twitter, but I feel like I feel like they would have been loyal.
I think the pushback is that, like, you can say that, but when he was in power and considering not putting them on the block,
who are you talking about?
Kevin. When Kevin was in power and Ika and Dimitri were like, if Kevin saves us, they were talking, we're still going to put him up next week.
That was when he was waffling between them. That was when he was making them feel like that they were going to be the nominees. He wasn't promising them safety at that point. He wasn't saying, you know, I'm with you guys. He was saying, well, yeah,
what I'm saying is that when he was in the position to put them up on the block, they were saying, even if he doesn't, we're still going to come after him. Now that he has put them on the block, they seem much more amenable to working with him. And Dimitri has talked about next week I do have to ride with Kevin. So if anything, putting them on the block may have helped his position with Dimitri, whereas not putting them on the block might have not helped them.
Well, I get your point, Taryn.
Backwards. Oh my God.
I do feel like
backwards, but it is what we're seeing on the feeds.
I still feel like I had this problem with my Periscope where people are looking into the future, but they're not looking into the future based on the information that could have happened. They're looking into the future based on an alternate timeline that is happening right now. So of course Ika and Demetrius is going to be pissed at Kevin currently. They're like, well, even if he does put us up next week, we're still going to go after him because they feel butthurt right then that he's not making them feel safe. He's not doing anything to make them feel better about their current prospects. I get why they were saying that. And by the way, they're just talking amongst themselves. There's no evidence that they really would have done that. And again, if he jumps and says, you know what, I'm sorry, I believe it now, I'm with you guys, and shown them an ounce of trust at that point.
But that's the pitch he had offered them last week. Like, he already offered that pitch, and they were talking about, like, if he goes back to that, we're still not going to honor it. Like, you're talking about alternate dimensions and universes, but, like, you're talking about if they had done this, then we would have seen this, despite the evidence that we actually saw them do on the feeds. And I'm saying that, you can make the claim, but what we saw is the opposite of what you're claiming.
The problem is that we haven't seen either one of them trust. We haven't seen Kevin and Bruno trust, and we haven't seen Ika and Demetrius trust. I'm saying that if they had trusted, they would have acted differently going forward. That's what I'm arguing.
I'm just saying there's no evidence to that point.
Well, there's no evidence, but you can't look into the future and tell me that it wouldn't have happened if they had trusted.
I'm not saying it definitely wouldn't have happened.
Right.
But I'm saying the evidence points to the fact that it wouldn't have happened, and that what Kevin has done is that he seems to have potentially won over Dimitri while still making good inroads with Dylan and Karen, while still maintaining his relationship with William. And I do think he's in a better position than he was before.
I feel like it's pretty fluid, but I'll shut up. Yeah.
All right. So
sorry, I wouldn't let Alex get in there. I was like, yeah.
Alex, if you have,
no wonder. I wonder why he was so quiet. He left.
No, I literally got kicked out 5 seconds ago.
Oh,
I tried to get a word in there 3 times and then I gave up because you guys.
There's still a ghost Alex.
There's still a ghost Alex. I love it.
Yeah. No. All I was gonna say was, Taryn, I get your point. I take your point. I think it's a fair point. If that is indeed the case, if he has leapfrog Demetrius in the pecking order, then I will give more credence to how he played this week. Once Queen Ika is out of the house, I don't know that that'll be the case. I know that that's what's being said now. I know that that seems to be the general consensus, but I have a hard time. They just like Demetrius more than they like Kevin. You know, once Kevin's no longer in power, I really have a hard time seeing that they won't just like take out the last remaining vet and then take out Demetrius. I understand he's won all these comps, but Kevin's no slouch either. They'll find a way to keep the guy they like more, I would say.
I'm not sure I agree with that, but I don't think we're going to be able to find out anyway, because if a triple happens and they're both on the block, they're probably both going to go anyway.
I know, right?
Strategy! Hooray!
Right. We're talking about all this stuff, but all of it's made invalid by the fact that it's a triple eviction, and we're just going to lose everybody anyway. Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's talk about the triple. So, moving into this triple, let's assume that Ika leaves because that's the most likely outcome. We're looking at probably, assuming it's some sort of quiz competition, and even if it is some physical competition, we're looking at probably William, Jackie, or Dimitri winning the HOH, right? We're not going to assume that Karen or Dylan. Certainly Dylan, I think, has a chance, and obviously anybody always has a chance. They're always somewhat based on luck. Ika always has a chance, but the most probable outcomes are Jackie, William, or Dimitri. Assuming that's the case, who do we see going home in this triple? Most like number 1, number 2, number 3. What do you think, Alex?
Well, I guess if we're assuming Ika's gone at that point. So I think, you know, if Demetrius wins, it's probably William, Kevin, maybe Dre at this point. You know, he's been talking a lot of, you know, he was very loyal to Dre even a few days ago, but this is now another comp where it seems like she threw. I think, you know, Demetrius, even more so than Ika to a degree, has woken up a little bit and realized Dre has really not done anything for my game this whole time. I keep winning comps and keeping this girl safe. What is she doing for me? She's not actually doing anything for me. And he's right. She hasn't done anything for you. She's actively tried to sabotage you multiple times. So yeah, I could see that. I think, you know, Kevin's in clear danger with all those situations but William. I think William probably keeps Kevin and Dre safe. So William maybe goes like Demetrius, you know, Karen and Jack. I mean, he, you know, or Dylan, Demetrius, Dylan and Jackie. I mean, he hates Karen, but you know, also Karen is just so, you know, it's very easy to see whichever goes up between Karen and Jackie, you would think might get kept because Demetrius and Dylan are these. I just think the big dudes are in trouble. I think Karen and Jackie are probably some of the safest people in the house. And, you know, yeah, I mean, William somewhere in the middle, Dre somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think Dimitri is the biggest wild card in terms of what he does if he wins, because as we talked about, he has talked about, I need to ride with Kevin and maybe also Dylan, in which case maybe he puts up Jackie, Karen, and Dre or something along those lines, or maybe William. He certainly isn't a huge fan of William.
Yeah, if he gets out William, then you know the door to Kevin being loyal to you looks a lot more open.
Exactly. I think if Dimitri, I mean, from what we see right now, obviously he could formulate a plan in the future, but as it stands right now, if Dimitri won HOH, I have no idea who he'd put up. He could put up any combination of anybody in the house, and I wouldn't be surprised. So that would be insanity to me. But from my standpoint, it looks like Kevin is probably Kevin is probably the most likely person to go, just because I trust in Dimitri's ability to win more than I do Kevin's, and Dimitri has more shots at winning than Kevin does. But then I think Dimitri is the second most likely to go. I think William is somewhat likely to go. And I think Jackie is somewhat likely to go. I think Dre and Karen are somewhat safe here. And I think Dylan is maybe somewhere in the middle. What do you think, Brent?
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. Our wet dream would be Demetrius winning HOH and Kevin winning the veto. Like that's what we need to happen for it to get out, to use the triple to get out this crap that's in the house right now. And Dre. I won't include her in the crap because I feel like she's been playing at least a replacement level above a game. But everybody else,
the red shirt wedding.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody else, if it was like, you know, Dylan and Karen and Jackie on the block, like I would be praising hallelujah. But I have a feeling I'm going to have to break out the veil on Thursday night if Ika, Demetrius, and Kevin all go out on one night.
All right,
so talking about who really has the win equity between Dylan and Karen.
That'll be fun. And we'll be in Toronto for that.
Oh,
That'll
boy.
be so amazing.
Yeah. All right, let's do a stock watch. Let's start with Kevin. I feel like Kevin last week we were talking about he was probably a little bit on the rise with Bruno leaving. This week, probably fallen quite far, don't you think, Alex?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. He probably doesn't fall this far if he just doesn't win HOH, but just knowing what's to come, knowing where we're headed, knowing, where his game stands with, in general terms with a lot of the people who would have to nominate 3 people, it doesn't look promising.
Yeah, not to throw shade at Arissa again, because I love you, Arissa, but I show my love through shade. So I'm gonna shade her a little bit here because somebody asked Arissa, said, it's really unfair that for the most important HOH of the season, Kevin can't play. He doesn't know that a triple's coming up. He happens to be the outgoing HOH again, just like he was in Big Brother Canada 3. And that's when she responded with, well, good players will, plan around for twists. And I don't know how a player like Kevin Martin at this point in the game can plan for a twist like a triple. I just don't feel like there's any way to do that, to guard against it. And as the outgoing HOH, he's only going to have one shot to save himself. If he's on the block, I feel like he gets evicted. Again, I go back to the fact, just to pat myself on the back here, that if Demetrius and Ika are in the house, there's a definite shot that he survives the block. But now, if he's on the block, I don't feel like there's any way he survives it unless he can win the veto.
Yeah, well, really what it comes down to, a twist can be almost anything. So the idea that you should be able to game all twists is absurd. Because like I said, I tweeted this the other day, but it's technically if the voice came over, if your name is Kevin, you are now evicted. That is a twist. That's a hell of a twist. But good luck gaming that, Kevin Martin. You can't game that. If they said all of a sudden, whoever is the worst at drawing left-handed is done. Good luck learning how to draw left-handed in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? These are twists. Those would all be twists, but yeah, you can't plan for that.
It kind of infuriates me, this whole notion, and I know I ranted about it last season after what happened to Mitch.
Do it again.
This idea.
Yes, do it again.
This idea that you can prepare for twists that oh, you need to anticipate them, you need to be liked by Canada, that's how you game the twist. All of these things, it's not true. You cannot game for twists. They are random by definition. And the argument that it's oh no, it's totally fair because all he needs to do is make sure that it's impossible for him to be evicted on a triple eviction. That's impossible to do. Just own your shit, dude. Just if it's unfair, just say, yeah, the game's unfair. It's a twist. It's unfair. Sorry about it. That's what you should be telling us. Not oh, they could be doing better. Don't put it on them. It's on you. You're doing this to them, and just own that. We don't have to like it if it's your show. Just be upfront about it,
I would have so much more respect.
Sideshow now where we can berate Kevin for how he didn't see it coming, right? At least that's done.
I would have so much more respect if she had just said, you know what? Nobody ever said Big Brother Canada was fair. And I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm with you. But nope. Apparently they have to insulate themselves and plan for it. And I just can't buy that. I respectfully cannot buy that.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. So that's Kevin.
Sorry. Yes, Kevin. By the way, I will concur a little bit with you, Taryn, that I feel like there's a possibility that maybe Kevin has improved his relationship with a couple of people in the house. Again, from my perspective, though, that it's the wrong people. I just wish he had decided to improve his relationship with the people who were more likely to win the comps. And he may ultimately get rewarded with this sort of backwards logic of by nominating Demetrius and evicting Ika, that all of a sudden Demetrius is more loyal to him. I mean, he might ultimately be rewarded for that, but that doesn't mean that it was a good move to do in the first place. He might have bettered his position, but I still feel like that the moves he made were wrong.
I don't know. I feel like it's not as clear cut as some
Again,
people
I said
are making
maybe.
that today.
What?
Yeah.
Well, we really have. We've just watched what was a dominant alliance for 5 weeks, just ever since, just self-sabotage, just stab themselves repeatedly in all kinds of places, just bleeding out in the gutter by their own hand. It's just really, really hard to watch.
I remember we were asked if we thought that the 6 were going to be the first 6 people on the jury. And I was like, no, there's no way that can happen because, it's Big Brother Canada and, people win comps. And I really sincerely doubt that all 6 of them could end up on the jury. Oops.
Fast forward too.
And everybody was saying that the reason that the 6 was going to fail was because Canada was going to come in and intervene with a twist to make sure that they failed. You don't need twists. They failed themselves. They stabbed themselves in the back. You don't need the twist to do it for you.
Yeah.
And it's so much more fun watching them just implode on themselves. Like, even if we do have a disappointing finish to the season, we at least got to see this train wreck of an alliance crash and burn. And I think it's been fun to watch.
The spider is only as strong as its strongest leg, and Cindy was a broken leg. It's just the interact.
Yes. So Stockwatch, Ika and Dimitri. I feel like they were falling, I think, last week. Are they still falling? Because is there really anywhere for them to go at this point, Alex?
Nope. If you didn't sell by now, you're either jumping out the window, Great Depression style, or you're just, quietly sitting in a dark corner somewhere, just hoping your shares of Dimitri someday pay dividends because he wins and wins and wins. That's what you got at this point. You're holding, or you're tapping out.
Yeah, I really think. I mean, even if there is one of them that's going to stay sometimes in this position, like last week when Bruno was leaving and Kevin was staying, it was like maybe Kevin's game is going to come up from this point. It doesn't feel like that's the case with Ika and Dimitri. It feels like whichever one of them stays at this point, which would be Dimitri, he's probably going to go the very next week unless he wins, and at which point he'll leave the next week unless he wins. So I really don't think, unless they can pull something off this week, which I don't think is too likely, but is still, there's still a possibility.
Right.
I think they're still pretty far below many of the other players.
Yeah, I concur with that. I said what I said before, that I feel like that Demetrius, he's going to have to comp out. I mean, but working for him here is this triple, because he is eligible to win the HOH. If he uses it to get 2 people out of the house, all of a sudden they're quickly down to 5 people, and he only has to win a comp or 2 when he's by far the favorite. I feel like that. I mean, I would take those odds if I was him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the stat is that nobody has ever won out from the final 5 on, or it might have been the final 6 on, but he could theoretically win out from the final 7 on because it goes straight down to the final 5.
Right.
So he has a better shot than most people do to win out. Winning out in Big Brother is very unlikely until you're down to about final 5, final 4. Before that point, you're basically screwed. But with the triple eviction looming, all he needs to do is get lucky on this one, and then he does have a decent shot at running the table moving forward, especially if you lose people like Kevin, Jackie, or Dylan, who is at which point, who is Dimitri left to compete with? One of William or Jackie, and then like Karen. You know what I mean? Like, so. Karen and Dre, who haven't really won much at all. So I really do think Dimitri has a shot as long as he makes it through this triple. Same thing with Kevin, too. I feel like if Kevin makes it through this triple, Dimitri will go, probably. Jackie might go, at which point Kevin and William are by far the strongest challenge competitors in the house. And I think they could run the table at that point. So we could be looking...
I'm sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead, finish. Sorry.
We could be looking at if either of William... if either of Kevin or Dimitri survive this triple, we could be looking at them definitely running the table at that point.
I wanted to just quickly talk about William because we barely mentioned him today. We can talk about his place in the game, which I feel like I would hold him at this point. I really don't feel like he's raised or lowered himself in terms of viability as far as the stock watch goes. But I was more interested in his relationship with Kevin moving forward. And do we feel like that William takes him? Is William somebody who will take Kevin to the final 2 no matter what? Because I feel like he is. What do you guys think?
Could be. Depends on who's there, I guess. Like if it's a choice between Kevin and Dre, maybe it's tough. But I don't think he's necessarily thinking about well, I could beat the Karen, so I'd take the Karen over the William, or Kevin. No.
Right.
I don't think he's thinking on that level. I think at that point he would take Kevin. And
I think he's got doughy eyes. And don't you, Taryn, that he would willingly take Kevin to the end?
Me and Kevin will drive this Toyota 86 out of here. Screw all you people. We'll leave you in the dust.
I think he would really, really heavily consider it. But I could also see Kevin being the kind of player that's like, look, William, I know it's not in your best interest to take me. I know that I'm going to beat you handily in the final 2. I feel like Kevin could completely fumble
Yeah,
and get
I
William
agree.
to take
Right,
somebody
yeah.
else.
Yes.
Yeah, Kevin is too smart for his own good sometimes. Like he overestimates other people's intelligence. Like he just assumes
Right.
other people can see how the game is supposed to work, and like he's really, really giving these people way too much credit.
Yeah, but I do think William's stock for me has risen a little bit here. I think that I do think he's in trouble in the triple. If somebody goes after Kevin and they can't get Kevin, I think they will get William. However, a lot of other people's stocks have fallen, especially in terms of final two equity. And I think William is somebody who's kind of remained a bit steady. People don't really respect his game, but they do respect it more than some other people, like potentially Jackie, potentially Karen, potentially Dylan, and even Dre. I mean, a lot of people are not high on Dre. There's a lot of Dre hate. Nobody respects her game right now, even Ika and Demetri. And nobody in the jury is really going to be backing her up either. So I could see Dre having a problem winning this game in the end.
Can we talk about her goodbye message that she left to Bruno? That really seems to have done some damage. And I feel like that after based on what he said to other outlets, what he said to Rob in his exit interview, that she really shot herself in the foot with that little quip she made about, see ya, Bruno, and Ika, and Kevin will be joining you soon. I'm going to get all the veterans out of here. Like, I know she was trying to own her stuff, but she has to know her audience. And I feel like Bruno is not the kind of guy that you, like, openly make a fool of in front of all of Canada. He's got some pride to him,
Yeah, and I could see Bruno going back to the jury and not reporting it as though like I don't see Bruno going back and saying, yeah, Dre called her shot, she took me out, now she's going to take out Ika and Kevin. Even if Ika and Kevin are the next two to come in, he'll find a way to sell it to the jury as if Dre isn't the one that caused that, though. Like, her game isn't good because you can't piss Bruno off. Bruno's going to play the game in jury, and he's going to try to play it as hard as he can to make sure that he gets the person that he wants to win as the winner. He's not necessarily great at that game, as JP has pointed out to us. But
some would argue he's terrible.
Right. But you also don't want him to be against you. You don't want him to be somebody that is not going to be arguing against you, very aggressively. And so I could definitely see this. I could see Dre getting to the end with somebody like William, thinking that she can beat William. And then it turns out, Kevin's campaigning for William in the jury. Other people like Bruno's going to be campaigning for William. Ike and Demetri are going to feel burned by Dre. They might go for William. Like, I could really see her losing to William or, even again, maybe to Jackie. Just saying.
That'd be crazy.
I'm gonna put the kibosh.
Fast, Dre. Ashante. It is William's time.
I need to put the kibosh on the Jackie winner edit.
So yeah, I think Dre's stock has fallen a little here, and mostly in terms of jury management, but also in terms of her positioning. She has now been, for the most part, exposed to Ika and Demetri, especially if she votes against them. I feel like people will start talking about Dre as the person that has been orchestrating all of this, and also has a hard shot at winning in the end. So I'm not entirely sure that that Dre is on the rise. I think she might be a little bit on the decline here. Do you guys agree?
I could probably say, I could probably co-sign that. I think, and not to backtrack, but I think another reason that we didn't talk about why, since the last time we talked, William is probably on the rise a little bit. That secret veto fallout didn't come back to burn him, really. Like, it totally could have. This totally could have sunk his game in a way. Doesn't seem like it will now. So that's big, just the fact that didn't blow up in his face when it probably should have.
Karen is literally like, well, I saw William climb out of a tunnel, and that made me think there might be a secret veto, but I don't know. It's probably Jackie, right?
Jackie, yeah.
I love the fact that I was proven right, but the only reason I was proven right was because the house is a bunch of dumbasses. Like, there's no way that they should not have figured this out. Like, I'm totally with you that, he should have been found out. Like, I still don't understand how that happened.
As a feed watcher, I think that's called winning the battle and losing the war.
Okay, so speaking of Karen, where do we see Karen stand here? Is she on the up? Is she going down? I feel like she's mostly stayed the same here.
Yeah, mostly stayed the same.
Jerry McDonald status intact.
I mean, she's at least made nice with Kevin, and so maybe he doesn't feel like she's a totally horrible person now if she somehow got to the final two. But other than that, I don't really know. Not to backtrack, but I still go back to Demetrius and Ika throwing Karen up on the block rather than Jackie last week. What a miscalculation that was, because Karen feels like she was fooled, she was bamboozled by it, and she feels like all of her trust that she put in Ika and Demetrius was just that she got moved down the pecking order under Jackie. She couldn't believe that, under Jackie of all people. So I know that they thought that they had repaired, and I'm speaking of Ika and Demetrius, I know that they thought that they had repaired their relationship with Jackie. But again, this is like, someone you've been having fights with for weeks, and you decide to go in favor of that and trust that, just like Kevin did this week with Karen, over somebody who's been, ostensibly more loyal to you. I don't understand the reasoning there.
It's a good point.
And it's very important to point out that Karen was their biggest cheerleader before she was nominated. She was talking to Dylan about, listen, we need to keep Ika and Demetri as long as possible. They need to stay in the game, even ahead of people like Dre. And when Dylan, who is mostly sitting on the fence, it's hard to say where Dylan's loyalties lie. He's very close with Karen, but he also talks with Dre a lot. And Dre seems to be the driving influence on Dylan targeting Ika and Demetri. If Karen was on the other side of that saying, no, we need to keep Ika and Demetri, I think Dylan would be much more hesitant to go after Ika and Demetri. And so, man, losing Karen was just a huge piece to lose. And they didn't even realize that they lost it.
Yeah. Exactly. So, that's the worst part. Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to Dylan. I feel like, call me crazy, I feel like Dylan's stock has risen a little bit.
God, it is. Oh, help me. Yes.
He's getting closer to Kevin. He's getting that relationship a bit repaired. And he's in good with Dre, and he's in good with Karen. I feel like Dylan is in a good position moving forward, and I still don't see him winning necessarily in the end, but I do think that he is going to get a little bit more respect in these following weeks. As things are moving forward, I feel like he has more of a shot to win in the end than he did before.
The best thing that happened to him was getting rid of Emily, because I feel like since she left, he's basically become more of a chill guy. And, there's something to be said for that in the house. In a house full of nutcases, he's the guy who, he doesn't have too much drama surrounding him. You can just go to him and talk and be reasonable with him and not feel like you're going to get yelled at if you say the wrong thing. And he's at least somewhat likable. I know that we make fun of him on Twitter because he still hasn't figured out that he doesn't need to hold the mic up to his mouth to talk to production, and he's heavy breathing all over the place like a purring cat. But beyond that, I feel like the house actually thinks he's an okay guy, and I really do feel like that losing his showmance was the best possible thing for him, as is often the case.
Yeah, and I'm going to start to say it. I don't think it's impossible that we see a Dylan win.
Not impossible at all.
Yeah.
Not impossible at all. That would be the Pax Brothers outcome, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yep. I could see a couple competitions down the road, and you're sitting next to somebody maybe like Jackie, maybe like even Dre, certainly probably Karen, and you could see an outcome where he wins, which I would never have thought beforehand.
How do we keep getting shitty winners on Big Brother Canada? I don't understand. Is it cursed?
It's the twists. I'm telling you.
It's all the variables. Yeah. No, I think, I mean, I don't think it's like, I think plenty of people have had the take in the past that like the best player doesn't win Big Brother Canada. It doesn't necessarily seem to be what this game is. So, you got to have a lot of luck on your side.
Yes, we need luck. We need a Demetrius HOH and we need a Kevin Veto, or we need Demetrius to not put him up in the first place. That's what we need, so that Kevin and Demetrius both survive into the final 5. And at that point, I feel pretty good that one of them will make it to the final 2. Not great, but pretty good.
Yeah, if Kevin and Demetri are both in the final 5, I feel like that's going to be an exciting finish.
Yes,
regardless of what
we
happens.
Need that. We're going to be in Canada, Big Brother Canada. Make this happen. We're coming up to see you, for God's sake. Gosh.
All right, and finally we have Jackie. As I've talked about with Jackie, I do think she still has a somewhat of a shot of winning this game, but I do think her stock has fallen this week. This move with Demetri telling him that he was Kevin's target, bad move. She's really just losing the respect of the people that she's in the house with and making herself a target. I feel like her stock has fallen considerably since last week.
Yes, because she's just yammering on. Again, this is what happens when you don't have a plan. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing in there. She just talks, just to hear herself talk. And she doesn't even realize the ramifications of what she said. She didn't even realize that what she said to him was a big deal until Kevin came up and said, that puts me in a really bad spot if Demetrius thinks that I was actively targeting him because I didn't say that I had a target. And the fact that she doesn't realize that, the fact that she just opens her mouth without thinking, I mean, I don't see how that this there's out of many people in the stock watch, this is definitely the one person that has gone down this week.
Yep. Okay, so let's get to some questions. First one we have is from Tom Palmer on Twitter, who asks, which would you rather watch? Dre winning the game without having won any competitions, or Dimitri winning out from this point? What do you think, Alex?
Personally, the first thing, because I think it, for what I appreciate in Big Brother, I think it like sets a precedent, sets a tone that like that is actually what the game is, which it should be. But like the more kind of aberrations and stuff we add to it, the further away we get to it, the only thing you can trust in is safety, and safety comes in the form of winning competitions. But I think if Dre were to win without, having won any competitions, having only been on the block that one time against Gary, where nobody was really even considering taking her out there, a little bit of talk there, but not much. I think it really, people would, the modern Big Brother fan, the ones that came along late, like the Frankie Grande effect, all these like contemporary fans that think this game is about winning competitions and making big moves would have to really, really stop and think about what they believe in if Dre pulled that off. And that's what I would like.
I mean, I gave this question some thought, but I have to go with the latter because I feel like that it would be nice to see someone really Mike Holloway the hell out of this, and for him to be safe from the final 9 on. I mean, that would be just amazing. He was HOH last week. He won the veto this week. Hopefully he wins HOH or veto in the triple. Now he's down to final 5. If he comps out from there, I mean, girl, bow down. That's just amazing. And especially with the variable comps that they have in Big Brother. I mean, we've talked in the past. Taryn, I almost called you Karen. Taryn, we talked about the fact that many of the comps are like a freaking carnival game. So the fact that if he could comp out all the way to the final 2, that would be great.
Yeah, I would probably say I'd rather see Dre get this.
Shocked.
The comp runs, they're not my favorite. That said, I honestly don't see either of these outcomes happening. I don't think Dre can win without winning a single competition. I think that her position right now is kind of falling, and I also don't think that Dimitri can win out at this point. I think he will lose at least one competition, and at that point, maybe he survives and then he wins out from there. But I don't think he can win from this point on. I think that would be incredibly unlikely. But I would rather obviously see somebody get there to the end without having to win. If Dre pulls off what she's trying to pull off, I think that would be fun to watch, even if it doesn't lead to the most likable, it's winner outcome, whatever. I think it would be entertaining. The problem is I just don't have faith in Dre to get there. So that's where I stand on it. Okay, from Trevor Chong. Do you think there will be any other twists after the triple eviction? What do you think, Alex?
Probably, right? I mean, well, it's hard because you cut the house in half with this. I mean, as Brent said last week, it really is kind of like a taking your whole shot with the rest of the season there in one fell swoop. But yeah, I guess not. Probably not. They'll probably just be like some kind of like Marsha the Moose competition or something. That'll be like the closest thing we have.
Yeah. I think somebody said that they should
Space Marsha with her helmet.
I was just gonna say they should be like Martian the Moose or Martian the Martian.
Get him on staff.
Yeah, because they're in space and time and all that. But yeah, they love their mooses so much though.
Marsha the Martian Moose.
I do think that they're gonna try one more twist, whether it's a jury twist or something. I don't know. Maybe they ended on the triple, but the triple wasn't like the end all be all twist of Big Brother Canada 3. There were twists after that were like, oh, the more exciting twist. I feel like they have one more in their pocket, especially with how twist light this season has been. I'm certainly not rooting for a twist, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was another twist.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either.
Demetrius does get to give a jury member a car ride, so there's another.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
The Dan Giesling twist.
Except we ain't got no money for no beaches. We just go to the track. That's fine. That's fine.
All right, we have a question from Jen Claire on Twitter. I think Will beats all other newbies except for Dimitri. Do you think he is in a good spot? How do you feel about this claim? Do you think William beats all of the other new players in the final 2 other than Dimitri, Brent?
I probably would co-sign that. I feel like Will is, pretty well liked. I mean, he's. People said, "Well, I don't understand your hate when it comes to William Brent." Like, well, where is this coming from? And I'm like, the problem is that I didn't like myself when I was like 23, and William really reminds me of myself when I was 23. Like, I mean, I was that, the little Twinkie gay who falls in love with every other boy.
That's honest.
So yeah, exactly. So just I don't know. I mean, but I do feel like his ability to win Big Brother is unparalleled unless he's up against Demetrius as far as the newbies go, because I feel like that he has a couple comp wins and he's not made any waves with anybody. The bitchy things that he said in the diary room, he hasn't really said to people openly, and he's not left any crappy goodbye messages like Dre did when she shot herself in the foot. And so yeah, I would say yes.
And I think another thing to point out is the fact that he did get away with the secret veto. Not that like people don't suspect him, but it is something that he can bring up as, yeah, I used the secret veto on Kevin and nobody really found out. There was never any blowback from that, which, I think they'll say, oh, we knew all along. But it's still going to be a thing where it's like, yeah, but there wasn't any blowback for it. Like if he had used the regular veto, he would have gotten in trouble. And he played it off pretty well. We didn't really suspect that he was lying about it. It's just another thing to point out to credit his strategic game.
I will say this really quickly. I'm sorry. I just want to give him a little bit of credit because this is my one opportunity to do so. That one thing he said that I did not anticipate that would work is William said, when they asked him, was it you that used the secret veto? And he said, why would I use the secret veto? I had my own veto that I could use. And I was like, oh, that's mildly believable. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, like why would I waste the secret one when I had the real one? I could save the secret one. Obviously playing on the fact that they didn't know the rules and they didn't know that he had to use it that way.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes.
I'd love to see how he presents that information in a final two. Like, does everyone remember the secret veto? It was me. That would be fantastic.
Oh, sometimes I wish the Alex version of William was the real version.
The real
yes.
William. Yeah, it's like megalomaniacal, like crazy Frenchman.
Okay.
Like him.
So from Henrique on Twitter, do you see any of the new players with potential to make a top 10 Big Brother Canada player list? What do you think, Brent?
I mean, I suppose if Demetrius comps out, we'd have to take that into consideration. At least I would anyway. And if Dre pulls it off and gets to the end and wins, I would definitely give it up. I mean, Dre's game isn't aesthetically pleasing to a player like me, to a viewer like me, but I do enjoy some of the things that she's done. I just wish that she would own herself a little bit more and wouldn't waffle as much and care about how she's looking to Canada, how she's morally being perceived by people. That stuff I can't stand. And I don't like it when people vacillate between the two. So if she would own herself a little bit more, I would feel more comfortable with her as a potential top 10 player.
Yeah, I think basically if any of the new players win the season, I think they'll make it into the top 10 because there's not a whole lot of players in Big Brother Canada. It's not too hard to make it into the top 10. As it stands right now, I'd really only feel comfortable maybe saying Dimitri could make it there. I think he's played decently well, and I think if he didn't have Ika, he would have played better. And then, there's maybe William with a shot. But apart from that, I think they really have to prove themselves toward the down the line here. I don't think anybody's like really.
You have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, to get on our list.
Okay. Last question from Emma. What is Dre's ideal final two? Who should Dre be trying to take to the end, and who does she plan on taking to the end? If we are aware of that, Alex.
Well, I think she should be. In a perfect world, she takes her new best friend Jackie, who, according to Jackie, Dre's her closest ally in the house, which is like saying, the closest, I don't know, the closest ski resort to me is, there's just not it's still quite a distance. She might be close to you relative to everyone else, but it's still quite a gap. So yeah, Jackie would be good. I think, if Dre's actually like controlling everything down the stretch, I think it's more likely she ends up down there with like William and Dylan and Karen, because they all would want to go with her, I think. I mean, they all have good relationships with her, separate from each other. Dylan and William, I think, is an ideal final three.
That was what I was going to say.
Each other. Both would take Dre. Both are, not great, articulate, individuals. I don't know. She
Right.
probably feels like that's her layup.
Dylan and William was the pairing that I was thinking of because they
William.
don't have really any relationship with each other. They both adore Dre and really trust her. And I don't feel like, as Alex points out, that either one of them are particularly well-spoken. They're not articulate. They're not going to out-talk her in a final two. And I do worry about William's comp wins. But I still feel like there's a way she could beat him if she said, this is what, if she really laid out her game plan. And of course, they don't give him a lot of time. But the good thing also is that Big Brother Canada is taped. It's not live like in the United States. So they have a little bit more time if they want to yammer on and tell us exactly what happened. And they can edit it down when they show us the final version later that night.
Yeah, but they may not even get asked as many questions as
true.
The other
Yeah, you can't count on that. In modern Big Brother, you can't count on being able to tell the jury what you were. You need to show them.
Yeah,
I bet Dylan's final two speech, he'd just like stand up and start shadow boxing. Like, no, Arissa's like, no, Dylan, you can't punch your way through this thing. He's like, what? No, that's how I solve my problems.
Yeah, I think Dre's best shot at winning in the end is probably Karen. I really feel like Karen has the worst shot at winning the jury, because it would have to. I feel like it would have to be a jury that would be perceived as bitter to give it to Karen. And I think that people like Netta are going to do everything in their power to not be perceived as bitter. When you look at Karen and the fact that when she was nominated as replacement nominee and she was saying, ha, I knew it. It was a conspiracy the whole time. It's practically an instant eviction. I think the respect for her strategic game just goes so far down that there's no way that any jury can say we're voting for the best player right now, and say it with a straight face and not say that part of it is about being, quote unquote bitter.
Yeah, but
I knew it. It's another blind side on me. I knew it.
I feel like that there is an element that you guys are overlooking, which is, the give it to the old lady sort of thought. The fact that she is, really outside the range of people that are in the Big Brother house as far as her age goes, that she did win that first competition and proved herself as somebody who deserved to be there. And she has a pretty good relationship with a few of the vets on the jury where, they're like Bruno and even Netta, where they actually enjoy their conversations with Karen. I feel like that it's not outside the realm of possibility that Karen could win. And I wouldn't necessarily count on having a win in the bag up against her in the final two.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see them giving it to, I do think that, under normal circumstances, I would say I think Karen has the possibility of if people are mad at the person she's sitting next to, or if there's some sort of sympathy or credit, oh, she's so old and she made it this far, we might as well give it to her. I don't think that's this jury though, and I think Netta is one of the main causes of that. I think they want to make sure they give it to somebody that deserves it.
See, we're seeing everything. We're omniscient. We know the games that say Dre has been playing, but does the house see that? I mean, Dre has been pretty invisible to most of them. Are they really going to give it to her?
When Ika comes to jury, I think she'll make jokes about how Karen thought she was killing home and
right.
She never was. And that undermines credibility.
Yeah, I don't think it's about the other players. I think it's about the fact that nobody really sees Karen as a player in the game. And I don't think that they're going to vote for her in the, and I'm certainly up to being wrong here. I think, a Karen win would be kind of hilarious. But I really don't see this jury looking at Karen as a player. And I think they want to vote for a player.
At this point, I'm willing to entertain the idea that Karen and Jackie could still be a toss-up, but I'm equally confident that outcome would result in the end of the world. So maybe we would never even find out the actual result, because that final two, all of a sudden, demons would emerge from a chasm in the floor, and just volcanoes would start spewing lava tears, and just at the end of the world, end of days would be upon us at that point.
I have to say that Melissa needs to get her butt back on this podcast, because I'm tired of being outvoted by the two of you agreed on yes.
This is why I kicked her out, Brent.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our show for this afternoon. This was a good one. Does anybody have any ideas for a hashtag? Let me know in the chat room. If either of you two have an idea, let me know. I did see Kevin's fluidity was one proposal.
What about Karen Armstrong?
Karen, I think that's been used.
Because he called you Karen.
Has that been used? Okay.
I think we used that one already.
Yeah, too many shows.
Yeah. All right, so we'll think on that. Do either of you have any final thoughts on anything that's happening on the feeds, anything moving forward in the future?
No, other than the fact that I'm not quite as down on Big Brother Canada because I still have hope for the triple eviction that maybe it will work out the way that we want. On the other hand, we rarely get nice things when it comes to Big Brother Canada, so I don't know why. It's like I'm asking to get slapped down again by Thursday night's events. So I hope, but I'm hoping. I'm hoping, Taryn.
Yeah, Brent still has hope. I've already gone ahead and scheduled my all-day therapy session for Friday. So yeah, we're just, we're gonna handle it how we handle it.
All right. Brent, do you want to plug the RuPaul's podcast here?
Yes. Right after this podcast, in 5 minutes from now, I'm going straight to RuPaul's Drag Race podcast. It was the Snatch Game it was the Snatch Game episode. Me and Liana and Mike are going to talk about the Snatch and the game, and I can't wait to talk about it with everybody. So make sure you listen for that on the reality TV wrap-ups feed. You can subscribe to RuPaul's Drag Race itself, and it will come up in your feed. And I think it also comes up in the reality TV wrap-ups feed itself.
Yes, and I know, Alex, you wanted to talk about a podcast that is about one of my favorite shows ever, The Leftovers. Tell us about this podcast.
So good. Yeah. So our Leftovers coverage has been doing really, really well. And I'm really excited about it because I help out with some of the stuff there. Josh and Antonio really killing it on that show. I think it is one of those shows that really, really benefits from a companion podcast. Like some shows, it's cool to have, it's whatever. Big Brother, it's especially good because there's live feeds you don't understand going on. Leftovers is like that too because there's so many little things happening and little just subtle nuances to past events and stuff that it really helps to have other people who are really on top of this stuff talking about it. So yeah, we've got good coverage of that going on. Postshowrecaps.com, the sister website. Good to plug that because we got lots of other stuff on there, scripted shows, and yeah. Plenty of good stuff to check out.
Yeah, I watched the first season of The Leftovers with the podcast, and it's basically the podcast that got me through it. Those first episodes, I wasn't a huge fan of it at first, but the podcast, they were making sense of it. They were talking about things, and I was really enjoying their interpretations. By the end of the season, I was really hooked, and man, that second season just totally amazing. And so we're on the third season now. It's the last season. You should really get on board. It's not going to take you too long to catch up. This is seriously an amazing show. It's probably my favorite show currently airing. Maybe The Expanse maybe could compete with it, but definitely check it out. I am also podcasting with Lita about Team Ninja Warrior. We just released our first podcast on it. It's about the first 2 episodes. We're really kind of speeding through it, doing a casual recap, as we call it, where we basically don't know any of the information that we need to know, and we make fun of each other. That's basically the Ninja Warrior podcast in a nutshell. So check that out on the reality TV RHAP-ups feed. It also has its own feed, American Ninja Warrior RHAP-up. And Brent and Melissa, I believe, will be on tomorrow night with Rob talking about the nominations. Is that right, Brent?
You faded out for a second. I didn't hear what you said. Am I on tomorrow night?
Yes, I believe you were on tomorrow night with Melissa and Rob to talk about these nominations. I'm sure you can rant some more about them without me getting in the way.
You were fine. It was fine. I interrupted sometimes too, so it was fine. Yeah.
Yes, and we also, again, we have this live show coming up in Toronto on May 11th. It will be, man, that's what, a week or two? A week?
Like a week and a day until I leave. Yeah.
Get your poutine ready.
Yep.
This is exciting. Make sure you come out for this. It's going to be so much fun. If you have not watched an episode of one of these shows like Survivor or Big Brother with a whole crowd who are really into it, that's an experience in and of itself. Plus, you get to meet all these cool alumni. You get to meet us and tell us how much you hate us and how much you disagree with us. And it's just a lot of fun. You should definitely come out if you're able to. Check it out.
And Taryn and I are taking pictures side by side with anybody who wants for $25. They're just kidding. Not kidding.
I hope you're at least signing it.
Yes. All right. So you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Armstrong Taryn. Alex is at Alex Kidwell, and Brent is at One Lucky Gay. And for Brent and Alex, I am Taryn Armstrong. Hashtag I saw Martian the Moose.
Yes,
I'm liking that one.
I like
Martian the Moose. Hashtag Martian the Moose. Martian the Moose. We will see you next time.